boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of The Boys, Season 4, Episode 5, entitled Beware the Jabberwock, my son. We're coming off of probably one of the best episodes of The Boys throughout its 4 seasons last week, and uh, you coming off of that and going into this episode, it's kind of, it was kind of difficult for a lot of reasons. I think last week knocked everything out the park, story wise, the acting, the writing, everything was perfect last week in my humble opinion. And you know, you expect shows like this, especially nowadays. Every show is like movies. It's like watching movies. You expect the sequel to be better than the original, and so on and so forth, even though that rarely happens. And it's the same thing in television. You expect the next episode to be better than the last episode, and the next one to be better than that one, and so on and so forth. And you get in the habit of that at times. You get caught up in that kind of uh, tribalism, for lack of a better term. But this show, I have so much faith in this show because it hasn't let me down in 4 years or 4 seasons of it. I know that we're not going to get any wasted moments, and we didn't get any in this episode. As I stated before, last week it was a Homelander centric show where Homelander went back to where he grew up. No, not to Kansas, Smallville, or anything like that. No, in a laboratory. And all those who inflicted childhood trauma upon him, he took out his vengeance on in that episode in such a Homelander way that was just brutal, and to the point where you was kind of cheering for Homelander. You kind of understood where he was coming from. You sympathized with him, because it was messed up what those people did to him, and basically created this monster, and it came back to haunt him. Also, we got Frenchie coming to terms and confessing what he had done to Colin's family, murdered them in cold blood, and and he's having a crisis of not so much of faith, but of being forgiven for what he's done, and he's dealing with that. You have Starlight, Annie, being exposed, if you will, for having this abortion, and living this quote unquote Christian lifestyle, and having this abortion, and beating up what's her name, Firecracker, on live television for the world to see. It shattered her world. It just, so much happened last week, where our main characters were confronting their past. And also you had Huey. This is so confusing to me because I had a theory. If you listen to these reviews, I had a theory on the Huey and his dad and his mom situation, and this week it kind of blew up, my theory, where I was dead wrong. Well, not really, but it is what it is. Anyway, I'll get to it when we get to it. But you had that situation where Huey's dad was given the compound V by his mother. It was confirmed that it was his mother who did it, and he's awakened now. So that's how the episode left off. So we jump into episode 5 of season 4, and man, this was chaotic. This was a pure The Boys episode. I felt this felt weird and complex and yet poignant and real at the same time. Not too many shows can pull that off. Not too many uh, 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 not only TV shows but movies or whatever that can have this fantastical element of super beings and it be grounded in reality at the same time. And this show does it, and it pulls it off perfectly. I don't know how they do it, but it is so well written and performed by everybody involved in this show. But anyway, we pick up after the Compound V was given to Simon Pegg's character, who is Huey's father, and he wakes up as a amnesia murdering machine, if you will. He is, wow. It starts off fine. He's back. He's talking to his wife. Like everything's fine, and with Huey and everything's cool. Then all of a sudden he vanishes for a little while, and next thing you know, he's ripping people's hearts out, and he's phasing through walls and phasing through people and all that. I mean, it was just crazy, And Simon Pegg, oh man, by the end of this episode, of course, I wanted to cry. I didn't cry. Uh, I had to choke back those tears. It was so heartbreaking what happened at the end of this episode to his character, but for a lot of reasons for me. But this was just brutal, man. This was so brutal, and putting yourself in Huey's shoes throughout this episode was even worse because you think back on how important his dad is to him in his life, and he says that later on in the episode when he's talking to his dad, or talking his dad down from murdering his wife. And he's like, you went to this store to buy me my favorite superhero and you still didn't get it. You still didn't buy it because you're my hero. And man, I'm getting choked up now thinking about it. Lord. It was tough, man, because you felt it, bro. That was such an amazing performance by Jack Quaid and Simon Pegg in that scene. It was so good. Oh my God, I haven't seen Simon Pegg, and I love Simon Pegg. I mean, I'm talking. We're going back to Shaun of the Dead's and the Star Trek films and the Mission Impossible film. I love Simon Pegg and everything he's in, but this is probably the best. And he's a guest star on this show. He's only been in a handful of episodes throughout the run of this show, but I loved him every time he popped up. And this was probably his best as this character on this show, this episode. Ah, man. And needless to say, they saved the best for last because he did die at the end. Huey knew that the only way to stop him, or save him rather, from this Compound V that was in him was to basically Dr. Kevorkian him. He had to he had to suicide him, and he injected him with this drug that would peacefully kill him. And man, that was tough. That was tough. But great job. Great job. That was probably the best part of this episode this week, was that storyline. The other storyline from this week, well, they had a few, but the other storyline that I enjoyed, of course, was the storyline with the boys. You had Butcher, Mother's Milk, Starlight, Chemical, Frenchie. They went and got Giancarlo Esposito out of prison to help them find the virus that can kill supers. And so they got him out of prison. They go to this farm, or this estate, whatever you want to call it, and Victoria Newman is there. She finds them there, and they're on the search for this doctor who created the virus. And we find out that they've been testing Temp V on these animals at this farm, and Come to find out, these animals are going rabid. They're going literally, in one case, a rabbit. And they're going. They got superpowers, and they're going crazy. They're killing people, and the chickens are just bursting out of people's chests like it was an alien film, and it was just so outlandish. And this is what I was talking about to open up the show. How this show can just go completely ridiculous, but it's so earned. You're all in. You're fully invested in all this craziness that's going on. These chickens going crazy. Uh, a bull going crazy. I mean, a souped up bull. Um, flying sheep that will kill you or eat you alive. That was it. They're running from them. It was just complete anarchy on this farm. And I think this was done purposely to kind of balance the levity of the episode, because the Huey's dad and mother story throughout this episode was so heavy. And you needed something to kind of, you know, put a smile on your face, get a giggle out and uh, that's where the balance come in. That's where the writing and the direction comes in. It was fun. It was like it felt like, and I'm talking about this chaos on this farm. It felt like an old Roger Corman B movie, B horror movie or whatever. It was just complete insanity. Uh, that was fun to watch, and I must say, quite scary in some senses, because you're like, well, how are they gonna get out of this situation? Because they're trapped in a barn and they're surrounded by these flying cannibalistic sheep and all this here. It's like, man, this is a wild situation that is on the list of things I hope never happen to me. Also on the list that of things that I never thought that I would have to put on the list. It's just crazy. I did enjoy that. We get Homelander trying to get a relationship going with him and his son Ryan. Uh, and it's working. And we finally see it working in this episode, which is the scariest thing that you could do. That was more frightening. The smile between Homelander and Ryan at the latter part of this episode, where they were in agreement, they were together on something. Uh, it scared me more than the flying sheep. It was more frightening than anything the boys were going through on that farm, because that's a possible clone. Well, it ain't possible. He is a clone, in a sense, of a Homelander, but just in power set. But mindset, that is frightening. That is frightening to have two Homelanders running around, which is the fear that is driving Butcher, that Ryan would join the dark side, in a sense, that he would uh, uh, build a relationship with Homelander, to whereas he becomes the new Homelander. And that is the one thing that is keeping Butcher alive, to save Ryan. And we're heavily leaning towards the Homelander side. And so how is Butcher going to react to all of this? Ryan's newfound method of wrath that that comes from Homelander. That's going to be interesting going forward. Also, we have A Train. A Train being a double agent of sorts, with helping out the boys and getting the compound V for Huey, and trying to get forgiveness for what he's done, not being 100% on board with everything that is happening within the seven and at Vault. It's starting to catch up to him, and he's to the point now he's about to get caught. And in this episode, he was, inches away from being caught. And out of the blue, out of the blue, he was kind of saved, and he knows it. But where did it come from? It was kind of vague. It looked like Sister Sage saved him from getting caught, but also old girl, I can't think of her name. She was the CEO and got fired or whatever. The one that was dropping deuces in Homelander's toilet. She could have been the one too because she was upset because the dude who they pinned it on broke up with her uh, earlier in the episode, and she didn't take it too well. And so there's that as well. But yeah, A Train got saved here. So what is this going to do for A Train? Is he going to join Homelander's side to kind of throw him off, or is he going to fully? Because he can't keep straddling the fence because he's going to get caught. Eventually, he's going to get caught, and it's not going to turn out too well for him. As we wrap up this episode, we end off with Frenchie just overcome with guilt. We see him turn himself in to the police for the murders that he committed in the past. We find out that Butcher kidnapped the scientist and cut off his leg to leave on the scene as proof that maybe he's dead, but actually he has him tied up and wants him to create the compound V. The compound V virus that can kill the soups. Him and Jeffrey Dean Morris, not Morris, but Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Good Lord, I gave the man a whole nother name. But anywho's his character helped them out, who I don't think is there. I think he is a figment of Butcher's imagination, just like his deceased wife is. Because once again, you never see him interact with nobody else on that show, in any shape, form, or fashion. He just pops up. We don't even see him walk into a room. The scene starts and they're talking. There's no other interactions between those two characters. And the scientist gave a little look, like when Butcher was talking, and he was like turned and it was talking to Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, and the scientist kind of looked. It was real subtle. They didn't linger on it, which was smart. It was a real subtle look, like who is he talking to? That type of look. I thought that was smart, genius, beautiful. So we have that going forward. We also have the aftermath of what Huey had to do. He essentially had to kill his dad, after he saved him. Either way he was going to go, his father was going to pass away. He was going to die. But he gave him the compound V to save him. But being as though he was brain dead for so long, and he gave him the compound V, that's why he had the reaction that he had. But the aftermath of that, how is this going to affect Huey moving forward? And I still, even though when Huey dad woke up, he was interacting with the mother, which kind of poo-poos on my theory that she isn't there. But he's affected by the compound V. So that can still be in play here, people, because she still hasn't interacted with nobody else other than those two. And so that's still in play. Now, yes, I know in this episode she's feeding Simon Pegg food. I get all that. I know. I watched it. I watched it just like you all did. I still think that she's not real. But we shall see. Yes, this was a really good episode. This was a good episode. Was it as good as last week's episode? Not really. It wasn't as good as last week's episode, but it didn't have to be. What it had to do was move the story along, and it did that. And I think we're in for some really, really interesting episodes moving forward, especially with all the storylines that's going on. We still haven't touched in on Chemical's uh, uh, past with that young lady that she scarred up. Uh, there's that. We still got questions with Sister Sage. What is her real motives? Why did she join the Seven? Because she is not the type to join the Seven, to join this group. She even said that in the first episode. This isn't her bag. She actually detests all of the Seven. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what her true motivations are with this plan that she has. Because let's not forget, she's the smartest person in the world. And we have the Homelander Ryan aspect. Where is that going? What is that all about? Will Ryan fully embrace his father and become this, Homelander Junior? Will this smell doom for the rest of the world? And Butcher, what's up with Butcher? What's up with Butcher and this tumor and this, I don't know what, little slithery worm doohickey that's wiggling through his body, and I guess transforming and killing people. Because remember last episode, he blacked out, and all of a sudden when he woke back up, he completely just obliterated the old boy, the scratchy dude. And so it's something inside of him that is a soup. So he's still a soup, I think. So it's going to be fun to find out that he's a soup and he's creating this virus or helping get this virus together that will kill soups. So that's going to be very, very fun. There's a lot. There's a lot that went on in this episode. Not a lot of action, but I didn't really care for that. If we get action, it's a plus. That's a cherry on top of the sundae for me. But I just love this story. I love the acting, the writing. This was one of the best written. The last two episodes, have been some of the best television as far as writing goes. I have completely enjoyed this show. I mean, for what it is. I'm not comparing it to Game of Thrones style writing, Bridgerton and what, I don't know. I never watched Bridgerton, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's not theater. It's not that, but for this material, for this content, this is brilliant writing to keep us grounded in reality, social issues that we are going through every day, and mixed up in a superhero show. So, hey man, how can you not be entertained by this? But I love this episode, but I would like to know, how did you feel about it? Are you excited moving forward? But the biggest question I have, what do you think about the mom thing? Huey's mom, I feel that she's not there. I would love to know what you think. Do you think the woman is there, or do you think this is a figment of Huey's imagination? Please let me know. I would love to know your thoughts and explain. I want to know why you feel that she's there, why you feel she isn't there. I want to know everybody's opinion on this, because this has been keeping me up for the past 3 weeks. I think I'm going insane. I need clarity on this fast. But I would like to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube, and like this video if you don't mind, as well as the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of The Boys, Season 4, Episode 5, now available on Prime Video. Everybody, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.